Don't worry guys, I will not spoil the end game.
By that, do you mean you're not gonna spoil WandaVision?
Of course I'm gonna spoil WandaVision. Why would you even ask that? Who are you? Who hired you? Who pays you? Salutations friends, my name is Brianna Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and WandaVision. Oh my god, this show has taken the world by storm, and I am not immune to it. Something I really wanted to talk about from the show was mental health and how it relates to experiences I've had. Will I be spoiling? Yes, indeed. This is something that I think is really important to talk about. It'll be really nice to talk about it with you guys. I want to talk about the disassociation that is the show of WandaVision. In the show, we see that Wanda has been through a lot of extremely traumatic experiences. It starts off in her childhood, where she, her brother, and their parents are just having their normal day of watching sitcoms, but there's a war going on outside, and we end up having a missile destroy their house, and a second missile that is just staring at her and her brother. There might be a cat intro. And a second missile is just staring at her and her brother. 2 days it doesn't go off. After that, she gets like controlled by Hydra. They use mind control soap on people, but they also experiment on her with the Mind Stone. I won't get too much into that. Then she goes on, joins the Avengers in the battle against Ultron, and her brother is killed. Next in line, we have the battle with Thanos, in which she has to kill Vision to try and save the world, but then he turns back time and kills Vision again in front of her. Fast forward to just before the show starts, you see that Sword is tearing apart Vision's body in really an attempt to try and bring him back online. So she sees the man that she loves dismembered. She gets to go near him and he just feels dead. After that, she goes out to this property that Vision had bought for them to grow old in. Having traumatizing thing after traumatizing thing after traumatizing thing after traumatizing thing happen can be extremely emotionally overwhelming. It got to the point where she just expelled a shit ton of chaos magic, in which she built the home that they were going to share together. She created a version of Vision that existed in this town, and she just turned the town into this bubble in which they can live a happy life. And that is really what we're going to talk about today, how all these different traumas led to this experience of disassociation, in which Wanda creates just a bubble universe for her and Vision to live in happily ever after. There are a lot of ways in which people choose to disassociate, and in which people do disassociate: drugs, alcohol. For me, disassociation, I've had two different ways in which I disassociate. And this is where things get really sad, but we have a cat, and he's going to make sure I'm okay. Ain't that right, Chip? He's gonna make sure I'm okay. He and I, this cat, he loves to fucking spoon. He and I will spoon every morning, and it's so cute. This is why we have supportive cats. Anytime we're in this video and you're like, oh my god, that's so sad, that's so tragic, I feel so bad for her. Remember, I have 4 cats. This is why I have 4 cats. Oh, he's so cute. I've had lots of traumatic things happen in life. We're not gonna get to these. We're focusing on disassociation. I disassociated in life in 2 different ways. Pretty much the entirety of me just growing up, I essentially felt like I was playing a VR game, and not even like a bad VR game. Like, you're putting your phone in a cardboard box in front of your eyes. Specifically because it felt like my body was not mine. I felt like a separate being. It really felt like I was stripped down to a soul, this ethereal aura of blue wisps. That's the best way it felt like my true self was. And then you had this little black tunnel, and then whatever my body was doing, what was happening in the world around me, that's where that all existed. There was a true distance between myself and my body as I existed in the world. That's what disassociation was for me for the longest time. And it was weird because I didn't feel it as it happened, but I did recognize a point in my life where I felt like I was living in third person. Like I was watching something happen to someone else, and I happened to be holding the controller, but that wasn't me. Just like how you know when you're playing a video game, you know you're controlling someone, you know you're controlling a character, you know you're making a character do all of the things they're doing, but you know that you and that character are still separate. That's how life was for me for the most part of growing up. I did get better, quote unquote. I did get better. That did fade away. Then we got to a point where we have my second experience of disassociation, and this time I felt myself sinking back. I felt my mind and my soul pull back from reality, and it was scary. It was scary. So this second instance of disassociation is very specific. It is me sitting down in an interview with Stephen Colbert, talking about my books, the movies that we make of the books, me starring in the movies of the Queen of Thieves series, and all of these other things that I've done that have made me extremely successful. I'm sitting down in that interview. How it works in my mind is, if you've ever seen like Photoshop or a video editing tutorial where you can layer things on top of each other, you have these layers, but then you make the forefront layer transparent. First and foremost in my mind was this interview I was in with Stephen Colbert, but behind it I could see reality. That's genuinely what was going on in my head, and it was genuinely something I could not control. If I was like at gunpoint, what do you think is going on when you're doing this? I would say it is maladaptive daydreaming. I can get very into like a scenario in my head. It becomes very vivid. It feels very real, and my emotions will genuinely react to those very accurately. It's also why I think I'd be a pretty solid actress. I genuinely would be so into it I couldn't help myself. So if I had to put a name on it, I would say it is maladaptive daydreaming, and a lot of the times I cannot control it. That's why I get detailed, and I have such a very detailed and explicit playlist of songs that go with the scenes from these books, because I truly can't help but see these scenes as these songs play. But I don't tend to like to listen to music like when I am trying to do something that requires me to do a lot of communication, but it's also stuff like I am aware of. So I would have front and center interview with Stephen Colbert, and then reality would play in the background, and like that's a reality of my mental health issues. I don't think it's anything I've seen or been able to relate to in any TV shows, books, anything that I've been into and experienced. Let me know if you have any other examples to list down below. But that was something I really appreciated getting to see and getting to kind of relate to, in especially with Wanda, because Wanda and the Scarlet Witch are actually my favorite characters of Marvel, period. They have been since X-Men Legends 2, and I will take this moment right here to say, Marvel, we have an understanding. Obviously this video is going to be the most popular video in the world, and you're gonna see this. X-Men Legends 2 on the Nintendo Switch. I need it now. Thank you. The other thing I want to talk about is, obviously you have Wanda. She takes over and essentially is controlling, puppeteering the people in the town to make them fit in with the story and with the world she's trying to create with her Vision. I feel like that is a good representation, or a good like image of how your mental health issues really impact the people around you. Yes, that sounds terrible. Yes, that sounds like it sucks. No, I'm not gonna not say it because it's true, and everyone with mental health issues knows this. So when you lie to us, this is a reason why I actually ended up doing this video, and I'm gonna be doing a live podcast about this, is because of the podcast Wild Till 9 and some of the mental health things they've talked about. People with mental health issues, we understand that our mental health issues suck. We understand that they're not fun, that they're not convenient, and we understand that they impact the people around us as well. let's not pretend that everything's like happy and fine. And it's also like not uncommon to be aware of the fact that either you are telling me you love it, everything's fine, everything's great, but it's obvious that like you're very upset and like very annoyed by these issues. I can tell. It's also, then this is like my high school friendship in a fucking bubble. You telling me that you want to be there, that you're there for me whenever I need a call, that we're best friends, and then not actually following up on that, especially because you're sick of my mental health issues not being convenient for you. That doesn't help me. Telling me you'll be there for me means absolutely fucking nothing and is actually damaging to my mental health if you're not going to proceed to follow through on it. But we're throwing that in there. Back to the show. Mental health, it impacts everyone around you. We get to the end of the show. Biggest spoiler you're gonna have here is Wanda takes down her little bubble, but that means that Vision and her children, which she created mentally in this town, they can no longer exist. So she takes everything down, and everyone in the town is glaring at her. They hate her. She goes to Monica Rambeau, and Monica says they don't know, they'll never understand what you had to give up for them. And Wanda says it wouldn't change anything if they did. Like, I don't think what I'm about to talk about is what Marvel was like getting at when they put this in, but my God, does it just get me. My heart when I heard this. Let's take a second. I think this is a big, people do not understand mental health. People do not understand what it's like to have mental health issues. Like, what this reminds me of is when I was in school, I was like peak depression my senior year of high school. I was very well aware of my mental health issues, my triggers. Daily, then and now, I daily unpack trauma on my own. If you've seen this channel, you understand, like, I like thinking and analyzing and overanalyzing and digging deeper into things. So obviously I'm doing that with myself, and so I'm very well aware of all of these things. It's apparently normal. It's a normal thing. Again, lore DIY. Very well aware of her triggers and all of this stuff. I've had a doctor at the hospital I went to tell me because I'm so aware, that means I'm not actually depressed and I do everything for attention. We fucking love him. Fuck that doctor. Fuck that hospital. Ugh. That was a side note though. But I'm very aware of my issues. I'm aware of my triggers. So there were things that I just would not do and things that I did not want to do because I knew how my mind and how I would end up reacting. I did not go to my graduation. I did not go to my final, I went to my final choir concert, but I left. I just walked off the stage at the end of the show. I discussed it with choir teacher. I walked off the stage and left the school pretty much before anyone saw me. Because the previous year, the events like those were extremely triggering and led to me attempting suicide. I didn't want to get into those situations again. And I had my cheer coach, you're gonna regret it. Stop doing these things. Like, it makes no sense. You're gonna regret it. He had a habit of telling me, oh, you're gonna make your abusive mother so sad. Fucking annoying, but I digress. I had people inviting me to their graduation parties. I didn't go to any because I knew I'd have an anxiety attack. I like peak social anxiety at this point in time. I would have broken down shaking and crying, and this party is not about me. I don't want to interrupt anything, so I didn't go. And I literally had someone hold our friendship over whether or not I went to this party. He was kind of a fuckboy anyway, but still. And it truly felt like, because people didn't understand what it was like to have mental health issues, even to this day, I feel like people got more upset about the things I didn't do to protect myself and to protect my mental health. People got more upset about the things I didn't do than they ever would have gotten if I had killed myself. That's just a lot of the reality of, don't lick your butt on camera, bro. Not on camera. But like, that's a lot of the reality, at least for me. I didn't have a support system. I didn't have good friends. And by the time I was probably around people that actually could have cared and like been good to me, I had too many toxic people in my life that ruined that, and I had too many experiences with toxic people to like the point where I just genuinely could not socialize. I felt socially broken. I used to be such an extrovert, and now even to this day I consider myself more of a consider myself more of a traumatized extrovert than an introvert. That has hindered my ability to really want to reach out to make new friends. Even when I left school, the next friend that I had was not a good situation to be in. You know, I haven't had friends really since. We are still working on that, but it was nice. Again, I don't think that this is at all what the creators of WandaVision were trying to say with that last line, but it really did. It felt like I was able to relate to a character of people do not understand. Granted, I wasn't like hurting anybody. Like, I wasn't doing anything that was hurting anybody, and therefore when I stopped doing it was no longer hurting anybody. That is like a major difference between the two, but like it is the situation of people just don't understand what it's like to have mental health issues, so they become aggressive when you do not abide by and do what is expected of normal behavior. And it got so aggressive in my life that being able to see something that I can relate to on this front has been so emotionally relieving, even if it's not what was intended. Now, I'm sure there are a ton of other things I know there are a ton of other things we can talk about WandaVision wise. I do not know if I will ever really get into like the Easter egg hunts on these Marvel movies, because I don't really read comics. They're not for me. I just found out there are a bunch of Black Widow novels, so I'm really interested in that, but otherwise, it's definitely not in my budget. So I don't have the knowledge that a lot of these super fans are going into these things with, but I definitely do watch a lot of them. I haven't watched any of the Carlin Bros ones, but I am interested in those. But I have watched, I think, all of the Canadian lads videos on WandaVision, so I'll link those around for you guys. If you have something you want to talk about mental health wise or otherwise with WandaVision, let's start that convo down in the comments. I can't wait to see what else you guys have to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, go check out some other videos of mine, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button as well. If you're looking for ways to support me, number one, I've got these fly books right over here. Check these out. Link will be down below to the Queen of Thieves series. As well, you can support me on Patreon, $2 a month, and that helps me with making videos. It helps me buy the books that I read for my streams, and it helps me get my books out to more people, so that way I can continue to have this time to work more on videos and books and everything. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, Valedictions, friends.